Wanna touchdown in your end zone. You got a reputation in the streets, saying so fine but a cold heart.
All right, welcome to the Slant podcast for episode. Don't even know at this point. All I know is it's week 13 in fantasy football, and that's all I kind of really care about. With me, this for the first half of the episode will be Chris, and then for the second part will be Sam. So, Chris, firstly, is it Chris Delila? Can you please?
Chris Delila.
Delila. All right, cool. Now that we've got that sorted, first and foremost, what div are you in? How's your fantasy team going, and how'd they go this week?
I'm in Div 2. My year has been real shit, but I broke a 6-game losing streak last week, so yeah.
And where are you sitting on the table? Do you want to?
I am presently dead last, so I will see you real soon, Division 3. It has not been my year. I went all in on Cowboys, Ravens, and George Kittle, and everything just went nuclear.
Yikes. Well, funny thing is if you're going down, Sam V might be coming up. So the next guest we may have might be swapping positions with you. Yeah, that's right. As long as you snap the losing streak, that's what matters. All you got to do, I think, is win week 14 is the only thing, and then you avoid that relegation. So was in that spot last year. It's not fun. I spent the whole back end of the year building a team to just avoid relegation, which sucks. But it is.
That's pretty much what I've been doing as well.
Yeah, it's like you just get to a point where you're like, all right, cool. Now how do I just minimize the damage here and stay in this zone? So, big brain thinking there. I will do the wrap up of this week with Sam later. But in the meantime, I asked Chris probably last minute on Tuesday to go out and look at some championship winning players. So these are players that might have good matchups later on, or you think they're a buy low candidate you might think bang later on. So Chris, do you want to just list off one or two of those, and then we'll have a quick talk about them?
Yeah, absolutely. So at running back position, Devontae Booker, really like him for the Raiders, filling in for Josh Jacobs, of course. And at wide receiver, Cole Beasley.
Nice. Yeah, Devontae Booker. I went and bought Josh Jacobs here this week. I think I did a straight up trade of Chris Carson for Josh Jacobs. Now I'm cemented in the playoffs. I'm still very nervous about the fact that like ankle sprains this year have just been an absolute clusterfuck all year for everyone. So I don't know. I saw a hot take. I saw a take where Josh Jacobs came and I said he's confident he's going to play and that he feels fine. And then I did the trade and I was like, I just have buyer's room. Like I know the trade's fine. I'm just like, I don't have faith that Josh Jacobs is back right now or like even next week. And I know he started the week with 2 DNPs, which is did not practices. So I did highlight in the article waivers on Tuesday. If you own Jacobs, go get Booker. If you don't own Jacobs, go get Booker. Very, very nervous times for Jacobs owners. What are you thinking? Anything else you can add from the Booker side that you like because of him?
He's just a strong physical runner, and he fits that Las Vegas scheme real well, and he fits what Gruden wants to do. And yeah, with Jacobs injured, and Jacobs is a strong runner as well, but sometimes, as we've seen with other running backs in the past, being a strong runner can mean it takes a little bit longer to get back up to health.
100%. If Jacobs, so I'm expecting Jacobs sits this week. I'm expecting to know more news by the end of the week, and I'm just hoping he's more or less there for next week. Not confident. That's my hopes. If Jacobs weren't to play this week, obviously you fire Booker up. It's just pretty simple. You fire him up. If Jacobs comes back next week and Booker still plays and it's week 14 for those that are in the playoff hunt, are you still flexing Booker or are you benching him until you see him take on a huge role?
No, I'm flexing him because realistically, Jacobs might play, but if he does, I'd say his snap share is going to be limited. And Booker's already shown that he can do pretty well on a limited snap share. He'll rush a touchdown from time to time. And so, I'd still fire him up as a flex play. But if Jacob sits, he's absolutely just a locked and loaded.
Yeah, there's one game that I think no one's really forgotten about. It was against Denver a few weeks ago, and he was on 36% of snaps. He got 16 carries for 81 yards, which is 5.1 yards a carry, which is above the infamous 4, with 2 tutties. It's 21 fantasy points for a guy that played 36% of the snap. Now, his snap share is sitting at about 20-30%. So if Jacobs plays, I think it depends if I need floor or if I need ceiling. If I need ceiling, I might flex him. If I need floor, I might fire up someone else to just get guaranteed points. But if Jacobs sits, you're definitely firing up Booker. So if there's a Booker owner in your league and they're a bit unaware of what's going on and you own Jacobs, go buy him. Like I offered, as soon as I bought Jacobs, I messaged the owner of Booker, and I was offering like Frank Gore, Brian Hill, and my fab, like just go get him, because if you're a contender and you have Josh Jacobs, chances are you can't afford to not have that volume there.
Absolutely.
100%. The second guy you mentioned there was Cole Beasley. Now, I don't know how many times they talked about Cole Beasley, but it must be through the roof, because I am a huge Cole Beasley fan, and I think he's so awesome, and he needs to be started in every team. I just don't want him to start for mine. He's one of those such an ugly play type of guys. Like, you know what you're going to get, but like there's no ceiling there. Like the floor's there, but everyone's out here trying to chase lotto and get 30 points, and he's not going to give it to you, but he's going to give you 10 every week, and it's hard to foresee that, because when you lose by 2 or 3 points and your flex guy got you 3 points, you're like, fuck, if I just started someone like Frank Gore or Cole Beasley. But like, it's the unsexy player.
Yeah, absolutely. But with John Brown out, I mean, sure, Gabriel Davis is going well. To be honest, before this, I flipped a coin to see if I was going to talk about Cole Beasley or Gabriel Davis. But I think Davis is more of a boom bust, whereas, as you say, the floor is there for Cole Beasley. But I really do think that, moving forward in the playoffs, that he's going to have a lot of good opportunities.
Yeah, he goes up against some hard defenses in Pittsburgh, Denver, and New England. But the volumes there, which like, if I play fantasy from a volume perspective, I don't really care about efficiency to be perfectly honest, because efficiency for me can always drop off. If you get a guy that's getting volume regularly enough, you just gotta hope that they're gonna make one of those in play. Like Marquise Brown, right? Like he's been so shithouse this whole week. And to be honest, if you had taken his 70-yard TD away, like he plays super average in that game. But all it takes is one play and like it blows matchups open. And I think he's Cole Beasley's target share the last 5-6 weeks. Like he's had 4 targets, which is yuck. He had 13 targets versus Arizona, where he got 19 points. He then had weeks where he had 2 or 3 targets for 4 or 5 points. Week before that against the Jets, 12 targets, 7 targets, 6 targets. And then it's 7-6 from their head. So, like, he's not getting TDs overly often, but he's getting enough to volume that he can get you 50, 60 yards. He gets you a TD. Like, that's perfect. And an offense that can ball and score points. So, I agree with that. And these are guys that could be on your waivers. Like we've been saying for weeks, pick up Beasley off waivers. And then we just don't pick him off waivers because he's just an ugly play. And you kind of always find a reason to start, like, Le'Veon Bell over him or something, someone dumb. So, agreed. Is there anyone else on your list you're looking to try get a hold of pre-playoffs run?
Jamaal Williams. I mean, Aaron Jones is slowly losing touches to Williams because he's been a bit banged up and such, and I really do think the Packers are trying to save him for a deep playoff run. And Williams has proven in the past that he can be a dominant running back when given the opportunities. So, and he's got some pretty easy matchups. I mean, Detroit, Carolina, and Tennessee for the final 3 weeks. Yeah, absolutely. And if Jones does get injured again, Williams is a locked and loaded RB1.
100%. Fully agree. Someone tried selling me Jamaal Williams this week, and I couldn't pull the trigger on buying him. However, I could justify, and it's at the right price for me. If you can buy him at a flex play price, I'm smashing that because I think he's got enough volume, enough efficiency to get there. Just some people are trying to sell him as like high-end RB2s. I'm not there. I can't just because of volume, like, but I can if you can pick up for like a flex guy, like, damn, who would I be selling him for? Can't think off the top of my head who. Philip Lindsay. I'm happy to straight swap like people like that. Yeah, if you can do like a flex play guy, so because I think the upside's there. Like I think the floor's there, and I think the upside there because he has weeks where he goes and gets the TDs. Aaron Jones isn't necessarily guaranteed all the important touches and important work, and like he's sitting on 50% of the snaps. Like that's it. Like Aaron Jones, while he might be getting all these banger like 80-yard TDs or whatever it is, like you can't hide the fact that Jamal's sitting on 30%, like 50% of the snaps, and they've got Devontae Adams, and that's about it. They've got Lazard, and Lazard's a boom bust sort of wide receiver, but like that's kind of it. To be honest, Tonyan's all right now, but game script's also going to you importantly talked about the matchups there. Game script they're going to be in front in those games. They're going to run the ball. They're going to be ahead of Detroit. They're going to be ahead of Carolina, and they could well be ahead of Tennessee. And they're going to run, and then run again. So love that play. That's such a good flex guy.
Absolutely. And with that game script as well, who are you going to put in game script to burn clock? Are you going to put in Aaron Jones when you've already got a comfortable lead, or are you going to give Jamaal Williams some more targets and opportunities?
100%. And it's like that Carlos Hyde, Chris Carson thing this week. And I saw Chris Carson was in there as efficient. His TD was awesome. Go back and have a look at it if you haven't seen it. It was like, I saw a meme and it was like Chris Carson's contract was in the end of the end zone. And he just ran full tilt when he went and got it. So, yeah, and then they put Hyde in. They got ahead and they just put Hyde and he, like 1 yard per carry, ran. And that had me very worried as a Carson owner, to be honest. So
that killed me last week. That absolutely killed me in my other league. I lost by 2 points and was relying on just a few more opportunities for Carson. But oh well.
Yep, no, agreed. And I think those matches are so important, understanding game script. Anyone else on your list?
Let's see. You mentioned we talked about Tonyan a little bit. I actually quite like Tonyan in towards the end, just because he's been real iffy, but he's shown the ability to get open, have massive games, and Rodgers likes him. And shit, if Rodgers likes you, you're going to get the ball at some point. And the matchups are real nice. And then just Josh Reynolds. I like Josh Reynolds as well. They've got a pretty nice strength of schedule for the Rams wide receivers. And when you've got to focus on Woods and Kupp, that potentially leaves some room for Reynolds, though it all relies on how well Goff is going to play. Yeah,
agreed. Tonyan there. Every week I pick up Tonyan and then I drop him Monday morning. It's one of those, I can't find a spot to play him, and I know that I need to keep my backup running backs in terms of like safeguarding, but I sure as hell don't want your team to have him. That's kind of where I sit with Tonyan. So good. And like, if this guy had the draft capital of like a decent tight end, we would be smashing this guy like that we are other tight ends. He's one of the guys that like TD upside is just huge. Like he's scoring so many in an offense that is scoring so many. So love Tonyan, and you can low-key pick him up cheap enough. He's even on some waivers. One guy that we kind of low-key, or you talked about, cost you your season later, earlier in this episode, George Kittle. Now, I had George Kittle and I dropped him because I knew ain't no one trying to pick him up with 8 weeks out. I then watched, I won't give up the site that I watch, but I track injuries on the site, and he's a doctor and he breaks it down. And he said that the cuboid fracture could actually be a 4, 5, 6 week injury. While 8 weeks, I think that 8 weeks was completely dependent on whether they're still in the playoff hunt or not. Now, I was then listening to nerd over here. I was listening to a podcast with Matt Miloccio, who's the beat reporter for San Francisco 49ers, and interviewed George Kittle. And during it, they talked about his expected return time. Now, George Kittle, I remember when the injury came out, he's like, 2 weeks, I'm back. Well, he's expecting him sooner rather than later. He said in the last 5 or 6 days, he's been able to ramp up his activity. Now, a lot of people dropped him and he's still sitting on some teams' waivers. Some people had deep enough benches they want to go pick him up. That's fine. Now, if you're a league out there with George Kittle, start looking at dropping your AJ Green or whatever and go pick him up and stash him. Especially if you're a contender, he's your must start at tight end week 15, week 16. I would be shocked if he's not back week 16, and I'd be surprised if he wasn't back week 15. I think the door is low-key open for him to play week 14, or I don't think it's going to happen. If you can stash him, that could be a league-winning sort of play.
Absolutely. And I feel heartbroken that you're saying this because, yeah, I kicked his ass to the waiver wire the moment he got injured, and, broke my heart to get rid of him. But, yeah, and especially it'll break my heart real bad if he comes back and someone plays him against me. That'll be the final twist of the knife in this fantasy season for me.
Yeah, if there's a guy on your team that like you never play and he's literally just there to fill numbers and in case like of emergency, drop him, go pick up Kittle. Now I know Kittle's owned in most leagues. In Div 1 he wasn't. So the only reason I'm saying, don't say, oh Matt, you're dumb. Kittle's owned in every league. Literally in Div 1 he wasn't owned up until waivers. And I was the only one that put a bid in for him. So he's very much out of sight, out of mind for a lot of people. So if he is there, go get him, stash him, and yeah, because fire him up for that sort of playoff run if you're a contender.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just checking to see if he's available in Div 2 now.
Yeah,
No, he's gone.
Yeah. Some people wouldn't have picked him up a few weeks ago. I was shocked to see in Div 1 he was still there. But yeah, I just got lucky, I guess. Every week that went by, like he literally would sit on my mind all week, and I was like, okay, survive one more week without having to pick him up. One week, and then I just unloaded my 4th ad that I had left to get him, and I was the only one that bidded. So out of sight, out of mind for a few people. If you're listening to this and he's available in your league, go pick him up if you can stash him. Another guy I was looking at, and I wouldn't manage to, I bought his shares in him last week, was David Montgomery. Now, I took the most shit about D-Mont. His nickname in my league was uninspiring but volume. Then after that game, I went inspiring and volume. He had like some 60-yard run where he got down to the 2, and like, boy, he looked fast. And it very much showed me he's such a boring player that he's very much reflective of how his O-line goes. His O-line made him some ridiculous holes against Green Bay, and he just went straight through them and put up some huge numbers. See if I can pull up his stats now. Montgomery. So I bought shares in him because of his playoff run. Now his stats last week was 11 carries for 103 yards. Now you want to talk about efficiency? 11 carries for 103 yards. But I actually like the targets he gets. No one talks about him as a pass-catching back. He gets hella targets. He had 6 on the week for 5 receptions, 40 yards, and a TD. 24 points. Now, he was one of the last to play in the week, and that sort of just tipped a lot of teams over the edge. Now, his playoff run is Detroit. Oh, sorry, it was week 13, he's got Detroit. Then his playoff run becomes Houston, Minnesota, Jacksonville.
Oh, too nice.
Like, there is not, I've had so many people in my DMs trying to buy him, and I'm trying to sell him at like high-end RB2, low-end RB1. And I'm not even trying to sell him. Like, if you want to come get him, I'm not giving him to you for the value that he sits as a player. I'm giving him to you at the price of this is a guy that could tilt your team over the edge or not. Like, that's where I'm selling him. It's got nothing with his value. It's like, I'm seeing those matchups, and a lot of them, they could be ahead. I know the Chicago offense is disgustingly bad, and they don't want to score a lot of points, but Detroit's been pretty average lately. They could just slow the game down and try and make that like a 24-21 sort of game. Houston leaks points, and they just lost Will Fuller. So who knows how good that offense is going to be. And Duke Johnson's been pretty average. Minnesota, now, this could be one that they're chasing points, but divisional game, I think the defense could show up there. It might become a bit of a bludger of a game, possibly. And then Jacksonville, and I mean, everyone kind of knows how they've been going. So that's a guy that I'm looking at, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm just biased here, but and I'd like to know your thoughts on we might see him in that playoff run. But that's a guy, if I can buy him at his value, I'm smashing it.
Oh, absolutely. Because I think as much as we've ragged on the Bears over the past few years, I think they're a different offense when Trubisky is in, because then they have that ability to use Trubisky's legs, gets the defense thinking what they need to do, and Montgomery will be able to take advantage of some of the big holes that the offensive line can make. You've already outlined their playoff schedule. I think that couldn't possibly get any nicer, to be honest. Yeah, Vikings could be a bit tough, but still, they're going to want to run the ball down the Vikings' throats. Otherwise, the Vikings will run it down their throats. So, yeah, I'd absolutely try to get Montgomery if I could.
Yeah, I think for me, Mitch is a far worse passer, so they really need to slow the game down a bit. And I think Foles is Big Dick Nick. When he's in the game, I think that the receivers have a bit more like, hey, Rob, I'm more confident, right? For me, Trubisky changes your game style, as you mentioned it. Like, they try to get the run game going, give him a little bit more of a pocket to play with. And Montgomery's an all-down back. Now, like, you just know, like, he's getting you volume. Let me list off his points. 24 points, and then he got hurt a few weeks ago, so I'm not counting that. 12 points, 8 points, 11 points, 12 points, 8 points, 6 points, 20 points, 8 points. Like, you just know that he's getting 10 carries minimum per game and 5 to 6 targets. Now, if you can buy it at a nice price there, I'm happy to pay that. Like, that's a guy that I think championship on the line. I'd love him going up against Jacksonville sort of thing. Especially if you're someone like a Jacobs owner and like you're worried about his outlook for the next 3 or 4 weeks, pick up someone like him because you know that you're going to fire him up as an RB2. And like, he can be your backup guy that has RB1 sort of upside. Anyone else that might be on your list?
This is going to be a contentious pick, but I'll be completely honest. When I was putting some of this together the other night, I'd had a few drinks and was like, this will be fun to talk about. Fitzmagic.
Oh, yes. I love this. Let's go.
Yeah. So no matter what Brian Flores says about Tua, Fitzmagic, I think, is going to be the QB for the rest of the season. Who they've got? They've got the Chiefs, the Patriots, and the Raiders. There's no way in hell that Brian Flores throws Tua to the Wolves in a shootout against the Chiefs. And Patriots, maybe Raiders, whatever. I really just see them sticking with Fitzmagic. Parker's doing well. Gesicki does better when Fitzmagic's on the field. I really like. It's risky, but give me those 3 matchups if Fitzmagic sticks around, and I'd start him if I was trying to stream QBs at the end.
Yeah, man, I love that Fitzmagic. I think we can both say, and I think the fantasy community can say, the last few years, he's just been so much volume. Like, he throws, and then throws. And like, he's a far better passer than Tua. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Tua, like, long-term, to be perfectly honest. I didn't really like him in college. I think he's very much a product of those around him, and I think he's going to struggle at the NFL level. But, hey, like, I could be so wrong. But you mentioned it there, and I was going to talk about it. I think this means a lot for the other pieces in Miami as well. If Tua's in, I am not playing Parker. I don't care how bad your receiver is. I may be playing Gesicki only because he could be the tall target that you might just be your bailout plan. And I'm sure as hell not playing anyone else in that offense, maybe apart from Gaskin. But now I'm questioning, are Gaskin and Ahmed going to split carries? Because Ahmed did the exact same stuff that Gaskin could do. So I'm very worried about the rest of that offense. But when Fitz comes in, like, the over-under must creep up 7, 8, 9 points each week. I can't see the offense putting up the same points under what Tua has shown us as Fitzmagic. So I think he's such, and like you mentioned it, such a good stash because they're going up against Kansas City. you know they're going to be chasing points. Now, I get it, increased risk of throwing picks, but like, who cares when you're throwing 50 times a game and you need to put up 4 touchdowns? Like, they don't have the run game to sustain that, and a lot of their run game is pass catching run anyway. So, man, I love that call because he's on so many waivers.
Oh, he's available everywhere because it is risky and you don't know. Like if Flores is doing the coach thing of like, no, Tua is our quarterback. When he's healthy, he'll come back. But yeah, as you said, they're going to be chasing points. They've got to do the best they can to put their offense in a position to win. They're not tanking for Tua anymore, and they've already got a whole bunch of really nice early round picks next year. Let's see if they can actually do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't feel great about it, but if you're streaming quarterbacks towards the end of the season and need someone for a championship run, why not? And besides, like, I think over the past few years, Ryan Fitzpatrick has made watching the Dolphins or any team he's on more interesting.
Yeah.
He's a fun player to watch, especially he doesn't use his feet too much, but when he does and decides to like dive head first for a first down, I mean, that shit's entertaining.
He's one of those guys that the team will play for. Like he's out there to win and no other reason. He don't care about his stats. He's out there to ball and then go and like he'll just do anything. And I remember when Jameis Winston was putting up those huge numbers in Tampa, and then Fitzmagic came in and like just went like, wow, like. Is Ryan like, is he back, Big Dick Ryan? Like, is he here? And like, he's just so hit and miss. And but it was so fun to watch because you had no idea what was going to happen. And I feel like that's the same with Miami. It's like the ceiling is so much higher than Tua. So yeah, I like that. One of the other guys I want to talk about, and man, I wish I could buy this cheap, but the owner of this guy in our league, he's just too sharp. Like, there's no way he's going to sell him. J.K. Dobbins.
Oh, yeah.
Now, at that backfield, I wanted no part of all year. Just because arguably Gus is one of the most talented runners in that backfield, but he's just not the type of back that you want to roll out every single play. Dobbins has the draft capital. Ingram's there, but his contract's ending. So, bit of a crapshoot there. But we might have just seen the emergence of J.K. Dobbins before he went on COVID and then couldn't play Pittsburgh. He played on 63% of the snaps, which is his second highest all year by quite a bit. He had 15 carries for 70 yards and 4.7 yards per carry with a TD for 18 points. Now, the last time we saw that volume from him really was against Pittsburgh in Week 8, where he got that 113-yard game on 15 carries, and it was like, cool, it's Dobbins time. We got it early, mean. And then like they just went straight back to the committee. So if you can pay like running back by committee price for Dobbins, go buy him. If you have to pay RB2 for him, I'm not necessarily keen for him, but like if you can, again, if Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, if you can pay that sort of price and the owner just can't start him each week because he's just too worried, and you can, I think his ceiling is so high because this playoff outlook, he's got Dallas this week, but playoff outlook's Cleveland, Jacksonville, Giants. If he manages to take over the job there, just the ceiling is just so high through the roof.
I agree somewhat. Now, I'm a bit snake bitten by J.K. Dobbins because I drafted both him and Ingram thinking I'd get 5-6 weeks of Ingram usage, and then Ingram would pack his bags or whatever, and we'd see the emergence of Dobbins. The rationale and the logic is there, but we don't know how long Lamar is going to be out, and we don't know if RG3 is going to be very good. The thing about, because his popped hamstring or whatever.
Yeah.
So the thing about the Ravens is they keep you guessing with their running game, and they're an offense built around running. I really just don't see them turning to one guy. Sure, it might rotate through as it has been all year, and sometimes it'll be Gus, sometimes it'll be Dobbins. What the fuck happened to Mark Ingram? But I wouldn't trust him, to be honest. Now, yeah, the playoff matchup is nice, but I mean, there's almost no floor there. Like there's there's some ceiling if he actually gets used regularly. But I mean, 5 attempts for 13 yards, 12 attempts for 30 yards. Like, I mean, sure, attempts are good, but who knows what the fuck this offense is going to do. I personally, I wouldn't want to borrow him.
Yeah, I can see the downside there. You kind of talked about another guy I wanted to talk about, Lamar Jackson. Now, this is so tough because Jackson's been so shithouse all year, and he's gone on COVID. Now, man, this is gonna fire some people up. I'm going to try and buy Jackson if I can. Now, I have Deshaun Watson right now. I've talked about it before. I have Deshaun Watson right now, and he's been straight balling. But his playoff outlook is like Indy, Chicago, Indy, Cincy. And I'm just like worried as hell about him just getting eaten up, especially with Will Fuller gone now. Now, chances are Lamar Jackson owner is probably just absolutely sick of him by now. So as we're speaking right now, I'm drafting up an offer to go try and get Jackson. He's got week 13, he's got Dallas. I don't think he plays against Dallas. I think he's going to stay on the COVID list. But then he's got Cleveland, Jacksonville, Giants. Now, 2019 Jackson, your eyes would pop at that and you'd be selling him for the highest price you could. We ain't getting 2019 Jackson right now. And also the rest of the pieces are out. Dobbins are out. Andrews out. That whole fucking team has COVID. Marquise Brown is just so average. And if you can get him for like a nice price of like a streamer with good matchups, I'm buying him, and I think I'm firing him up, but I definitely am putting him on my bench and watching. Like, I'm waiting for him to have one decent game, and then I'm firing up from then on because his rushing upside is still there. Like, and I think that they showed against Pittsburgh with RG3 had that huge QB draw play where he just went for like 53 yards, and we hadn't really seen that all year with Jackson. And I think the plays haven't been called to design that, and I think they need to go back to that. That's where the offense looks the best, is when they don't know if Jackson's going to pass or run. And it seems like they've known he's going to pass, and they sit back in pass protection, and like he's just not a good enough thrower to support that. So I think Jackson could be a nice buy low candidate. If he's making you pay 2019 Jackson price, can't be bothered, don't want it. But if you can get him at a nice enough price of like a bench, like a nice, like Tom Brady, who's got awesome matchups as well, if you can like straight swap that, I'm keen. I'll at least have him on my bench.
Yeah, I don't know, but again, the rationale and the logic is sound, but I think he has such a huge name attached to him that in the end, you're not necessarily paying for the production that you've got this year. Unfortunately, if you were paying for that production, he'd be a steal. But you're paying for the name and the potential, and who knows how long he stays on COVID. Some people have bounced in and off, on and off of that COVID list with COVID. Some people haven't. I mean, poor fucking Raquel Armstead's been hospitalized twice and is, fuck, hope he recovers. But like, there's no telling with it. And also, yeah, not going to play Dallas. Cleveland, okay, Jacksonville, yes, please. Giants have been a sneaky good defense against quarterbacks. And do you want to go into championship week with 2020 Lamar Jackson against the okay defense? I certainly don't. But again, it's how much are you going to have to give up to get him? If he's a steal, okay, sweet, give him a shot. But I still wouldn't feel very good about it.
Yeah, I've literally just sent through Deshaun Watson, Brian Hill, and Frank Gore to a guy struggling for running backs and just struggling for players, for Jackson and Dobbins. So we'll see how that goes. I like to have people. I'm not expecting him to accept it, but if he does, I'll be happy. I'm happy for Dobbins to sit on my bench, and same with Jackson. But we'll see. We'll see. Is there anyone else on your list that you want for the playoff run?
No, we've pretty much covered everyone on that list. Though, quickly, you did mention, because you've got Deshaun Watson, I really like Jordan Akins. I mean, who the hell else is he going to throw to now? And he likes his tight ends in the red zone. He's going to have to like his tight ends all across the field now because, I mean, it's Brandon Cooks, Kiki QT, and an oily rag essentially for offense. But if you're struggling for tight ends, I wouldn't say no about Jordan Akins and riding him through the rest of the year.
Yeah. Like, while I just down talked to Deshaun, like, I can't see a point where he's just not going to be running for his life at this point. I think his rushing upside just, like, I think his rushing, like, the O-line is not good. So I can see him getting, like, his rushing upside, TD-wise, coming back to where we thought it was. And it's been a bit down this year, but he's been straight balling through the air. Like, his throws, like, not just his numbers, but his throws have been incredible. So I think his rushing upside. So, yeah, it's just those defenses, eh?
Well, he's going to have to if the Texans want to stay competitive.
Yeah.
Because Duke Johnson's not up to fuck all. I read something today, I think, that David Johnson's looking good, so hopefully he comes back soon. But he, even before then, wasn't great. So they've got no running game except on the legs of Deshaun. So hopefully he starts again and can use that to then open up some passes to whoever the fuck he can throw to.
Just on that staying competitive thing, I think it's quite important to talk about matchups in terms of week 15s and 16s. Not from a perspective of who you're playing, but a perspective of who might be playing and who might not. Now, we know full well, and everyone's starting to think about it, players start to get shut down now for teams that aren't competitive or teams that have already locked up playoff spots. Now, it's hard to know because you can even nudge. Some teams like to keep the foot on the gas and not like to rest anyone, and some do. Now, I just want to touch on mention a few teams who might or might not be resting players. You don't really know, and then maybe you can touch on who that might affect. So, my first few is the Chiefs are 10-1. They've pretty much locked up a playoff spot, but they've certainly locked up their division. Now, they might be battling the Steelers in terms of trying to get the 1 seed there because the Steelers 11-0 and they're 10-1. So that could make them competitive, but just be aware that that's still the only real competition at this point. And then teams like the Jaguars are 1-10, pretty much like straight trash. I don't know who you could shut down there, but I might let you talk about that afterward. Texans 4-7 in their thing. Very real possibility they start talking about shutting some players down. Bengals, maybe that affects Mixon, people like that. Chargers, pretty much out of contention. These are teams with players that have relevance in fantasy, as most do. Jets, I mean, you don't own anyone in the Jets. Like, let's be honest, you're not really owning it. Maybe Crowder, but yeah.
Maybe Denzel Mims.
Yeah, you could, but I don't know if you're playing him every week.
No.
The NFC East, well, you're fine because that whole division is still up in the air. And those are the teams that realistically have no hot shit show of making it. Pretty much all from the AFC. What are your thoughts on those?
On those, I think Chiefs is going to be an interesting one because, yeah, they're still going to be battling all the way through, I think, for that 1 seed because they're going to want that bye. And between us, I don't think the Steelers go undefeated. Personally, complete side topic. I think the Steelers lose this week to the football team.
I could. It's for me. It's in the realm of legitimate possibilities. Yes.
Sorry, that was just a quick aside. But in terms of the Chiefs, I really don't think that they rest anyone until they lock up that number 1 seed. I think they're going to be trying to be competitive all the way through. Texans. I mean, who do they have to rest, right?
It's hard. Because you still need to put a competitive team out there, right? Like it's always been a thing that players get rested, but you still send out a somewhat competitive team. And
yeah, absolutely.
Like, do you shut down Dave Johnson? Do you shut down Deshaun? Do you shut down either? Brandon Cooks and stuff will generally wide receivers generally play through. It's more or less running backs, especially injured, hampered ones, that get shut down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just looking at I mean, Bengals, Joe Mixon is aiming to return from IR week 14. Why? Like, dude's been great for when he can play, but he's injured. Keep him shut down for the rest of the year. See what you've got in the rest of your team, because you don't even have Joe Burrow on the field. Like, keep your pieces healthy for next season. Jags, who cares? Well, you might see the return of Mustache Minshew, maybe, depending on how shit the rest of their team goes. Chargers, it wouldn't surprise me if they lose another game and they shut Eckler down and keep him healthy. Because, I mean, I know he's just come back and he's amazing. He was essentially all of their offense last week. But really, like, you want to keep your pieces healthy for what could be an amazing run next year. They won't shut Herbert down. I don't know. Those are just some of the names I can think of now. In the NFC, maybe Kamara starts seeing way, way less work for the Saints.
Yeah.
Just because Latavius Murray has always proven that he's a great backup, and he trampled all over the Broncos in the Saints bye week last week. So, yeah, you could start to see less and less Kamara. I mean, you're already seeing less passing work for him. So who knows? Maybe they're just saving him up for when Drew Brees comes back and needs to dump everything off to him in the playoffs.
As an AK owner, and I had this conundrum. Sorry, excuse me. This week, and man, I'm so angry at myself because all week I told myself, I was like, this is going to be a great matchup for Let Murray because you're going to get ahead and they're just going to run let. And then I left him on my bench and started Kamara. Now, in matchups where you believe they will be ahead, which, to be perfectly honest, there's quite a few of them, and I'll just list off their matchups heading forward. So this week now, week 13, they have Atlanta. You'd say they're probably going to be ahead. Philly, you'd say they're probably going to be ahead. Now, Kansas City's a different story. They could be chasing easily. Minnesota, they might be ahead. As an AK owner, are you finding every way to start both Lat and – because if you're an AK owner, you sure as hell should be owning Lat Murray, but are you playing both each week, or are you just playing AK and then are you going to play – for example, like I'll give you my exact scenario. If I have Lat Murray, David Montgomery, and Cooper Kupp, and those are my realistic flex options, I'm obviously starting Alvin Kamara every week. Are you then finding a way to get Lat Murray over either of those, or are you firing them up and just hoping AK gets those carries?
That's a tricky one, because also from my personal perspective in fantasy, I don't like playing two running backs on the same team.
Yeah.
Unless it's, I mean, yeah, Kamara and Murray are maybe a fringe example of this. I think the best example of this season would be if you're the Kareem Hunt owner and the Nick Chubb owner.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fire them up every week and laugh all your way to bank, whatever. But I just personally don't like being over-invested in a backfield like that, because if one of them goes off and the other doesn't, well, that's taking opportunities away from other players on my bench who might potentially have a better game than the one who didn't go off. In terms of your specific example, no, I think I'd keep Montgomery and Kupp in as my flex options. But again, I think that is, I wouldn't be super happy with Kamara, simply because, I mean, he's great. You drafted him super early in the first round, but he's definitely tailed off towards the end of this year once Drew Brees disappeared. So I wouldn't feel great about it, but you got to play him, right?
I know, and like you have to, and that's why I went and invested in people like Montgomery and Jacobs, because I tried to guarantee some volume elsewhere. And what I didn't tell you about this, I also own Michael Thomas and start him every week. So, yeah. So,
then if that's the case, then hell no.
Yeah, it's an offense that you can rely on, and they kind of only have three pieces there, maybe Cook, but like, and now Taysom Hill's running upsides just sort of like I swear to God, I'm genuinely considering picking up Taysom Hill and starting him each week as well, because his running upside, especially against teams like Atlanta, like I think he'd be a smoky stream this week. because they're going to be a front, and he's shown that he runs the ball on the goal line. And I think this week they might try and change it and give Kamara and let Murray the goal line carries again. But so far what we've seen, like, Atlanta would be a perfect matchup for him. He can just run the hell out of the ball, and then he can pass the hell out of the ball. So, yeah, I know. I don't know. They just – and I couldn't do it because I know it's, like, against fantasy unwritten rules to not start 4 guys in the same offense.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't – I've only ever had that work well for me once, and that was my first year playing fantasy, which was the 2013 Broncos epic year when I started. Damn near my entire team was the Broncos, and I just walked my way to the championship. But realized pretty quickly, I think during the bye week, I was like, oh, fuck, I have no other players. I might need to rectify this. So, I certainly wouldn't feel great about it in your situation, already having AK, already having Thomas. I don't know. It's just the way I look at it is, unless it's a prolific offense, which the Saints used to be, not quite anymore now that Hill's in there. If you're starting too many players on that one offense, if Kamara touches the ball, you're guaranteeing that the other 2 aren't touching the ball. And that goes for the rest of it. And we were talking earlier about opportunity. You're robbing yourself of opportunity if you're playing too many positions on a single team, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, fully agreed. Anyway, we might wrap that up there. That's been a great episode, and I think we went into some pretty key important people and in depth. So hope the viewers see some value in that. We might actually make that its own podcast, and we'll send it out as its own one, and we'll timestamp it with the different players, so owners of those players they'll have a bit of a deep down breakdown of players going forward. So we'll make that our own segment. And that's cool. That's definitely a podcast I quite enjoyed going and deep diving into some players, because often we just touch players and we don't really go deep into them because we try to cover so many. But I think we covered a lot of people that had fantasy relevance and moving forward could be important parts of your team, and outlooks positive and negative. So appreciate you jumping on, Chris. We're more than happy to have you on anytime that you're free. And that goes to say, anyone else that wants to jump on as well, send me a DM on my Facebook account. You've probably seen my ugly-ass mug posting up just too frequently. Send me a DM, and we'll work something out, and we'll get your own little segment to go back and research and then provide to the team. So thank you for jumping on. Thank you for doing the research for us and doing the hard work, jumping on. Enjoy your weekend. I think I see you're off a boost off in Christchurch this weekend.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks a lot, Matt. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
No worries. And catch you later. And everyone, stay safe this weekend. It's a great day for Crate Day, but don't drink and drive and stay safe.
Peace.
Thank you, Chris.